Kevin Costner was once the man Hollywood trusted without hesitation. The face of righteousness, a seemingly perfect family man, and the owner of a massive fortune. But behind that carefully built image lay a truth few were truly prepared to confront. From cinematic, music, projects that collapsed in failure and became the subject of Hollywood's ridicule, to one of the most expensive divorces costing tens of millions of dollars, and the years when the media turned away after labeling him as past his prime, Kevin Costner has repeatedly paid a heavy price for his ambition and the beliefs he refused to abandon. At the age of 70, tragedy still has not loosened its grip. Another divorce, crushing financial pressure from what may be his final passion project, and a body burdened with illness, forced to endure pain and silence just to keep his career alive. Is this the end of a legend, or simply another painful chapter in a journey he knows all too well? And what is truly unfolding behind the so-called latest news that continues to break the hearts of his fans? If you have ever loved Kevin Costner, before we begin, leave a heart as a tribute to a man who has never stopped standing back up. Music. Before becoming an on-screen symbol of America, Kevin Costner was only a boy who always stood on the sidelines, a place where silence, loss, and loneliness quietly shaped who he would become from a very early age. Under the pale sunlight of Southern California in the 1950s, Kevin Michael Costner was born on the 18th of January, 1955, in Linwood, a working-class neighborhood with little glamour beyond dusty roads and rows of tightly packed small houses. From that moment on, Kevin's childhood began inside a family where each passing day was inseparably tied to the struggle of making a living. His father, Bill Costner, worked as a utility line technician. The job required him to labor under scorching sun and choking dust, his hands hardened by high-voltage cables and long, grueling shifts. Every morning, Bill left the house before Kevin woke up and returned after night had fallen, carrying the smell of sweat, dirt, and an exhaustion that needed no words. Bill was not a man who laughed easily. Life offered him few chances for gentleness. In Bill's world, responsibility always came before emotion, and that without intention created a quiet distance between him and his youngest son. Kevin's mother, Sharon Costner, worked as a social worker. She understood the pain of others while carrying a wound of her own that never healed. The death of her firstborn son marked just one day after birth. The tragedy occurred before Kevin was born, lingering like a silent ghost inside the Costner household. No one spoke of Mark, but a thick silence remained heavy enough for a child to feel even without understanding why. Mark's death changed Kevin's parents in two different ways. For Bill, fear of loss hardened into strictness. He loved his children, but that love was wrapped in discipline and control. For Sharon, grief became a secret buried deep inside. She never allowed herself to appear weak in front of her children. Unintentionally, she taught Kevin a lesson early in life. Emotions were meant to be hidden, not revealed. "I learned not to cry out loud, not to make noise," he once said in a rare interview about his childhood. "Because I saw my parents doing the music same." It was not a family without love, but a family that did not know how to speak that love aloud. Kevin's childhood lacked stability. The Costner family moved constantly as Bill's work required frequent relocation from one power project to another. From Compton, the harsh working-class neighborhood where Kevin was born and spent his earliest years, the family moved to Upper Ojai, a quiet rural area, music, with a small school along Topper Lane. Kevin later described this period as magical, playing Little League in Santa Paula, attending music, a Christian school, and feeling for the first time what it meant to leave the city behind. After that came Thousand Oaks, Calabasas, and finally Ventura, the place Kevin would later call where I really grew up. Visalia, Orange County. The names changed like torn-out chapters of a book. With every move, Kevin had to start again from nothing. A new school, new classmates, and always the role of the music, new kid. Overlooked in games, never chosen first for baseball or basketball teams. Loneliness did not arrive as a sudden blow. It crept in slowly, piece by piece, until it became a familiar companion. Constant relocation taught Kevin a bitter lesson. Life has no obligation to wait until you are ready. You either adapt or you get left behind. At the same time, it planted a quiet fear deep inside him. The sense that any moment of peace, music, could vanish without warning. Kevin was a shy, soft-spoken child. At school, teachers often forgot his name. Classmates talked over him during group conversations. Music, he did not stand out. He was never the center. Instead of forcing his way in, Kevin retreated into his own inner world. He spent hours imagining stories and adventures where he was the hero and people listened to him. I daydreamed a lot, he once admitted. That was how I survived. A rare source of comfort came from the church choir. The Costner family were conservative, music, Baptists, and church stood at the center of their lives. His mother sang in the choir. His grandmother served as choir director. Kevin joined at a young age and even played a shepherd in the Christmas pageant 2 years in a row. When he sang, he did not need to fight for attention. Sound found its place on its own. In those moments, Kevin was no longer invisible. Music gave him something rare, a feeling of acceptance. That childhood did more than teach Kevin how to endure silence. It forged something even more valuable. Endurance itself, the ability to stand without applause, to continue when forgotten, and to keep going even when he felt he belonged nowhere. Those qualities would later save Kevin from being crushed by Hollywood. They also left behind fragile scars. Early losses, repeated neglect, homes that never had time to become home, all shaped Kevin Costner into someone resilient on the outside, while inwardly remaining tender and vulnerable. This became the foundation for the long journey ahead. One Kevin would enter with a fragile but persistent dream of acting, music, where Hollywood would test him for the first time with failure, poverty, and merciless rejection. When Kevin Costner graduated from California State University, Fullerton with a degree in marketing and finance, his life, at least on paper, followed the path his parents had music hoped for. He had a respectable job, a livable salary, and most importantly, Cindy, music, Silva, the woman he met in college and loved since his student